Okay. Okay, let's just double check. Ow. My inner ear is hurting. My soul is sorrowful, even unto death. Is the audio... My inner ear is hurting. My soul is sorrowful, even unto death. Is the audio... It seems a little loud. I don't know. My voice seems a little loud. What in God's name? What is all this? Am I on the right account? Nope, we are. Okay. Okay, because I remember we got the jump on all of these witches who were doing the Edo Tensei. The reanimation jutsu, they were practicing it. Is my... Let's see. Because I feel like my voice is ever so slightly... Hello, 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 okay. Did that work? What happened to my audio? Did that work? Wait. What did it do to my audio? What? Oh. Did my audio just cut? Wait. How did that make the audio better? What? Okay, well, I'm never gonna be able to discern how to do that again. Somehow that made the audio clear? I don't know. We're just testing things. Alright. I was reminded that it's Pride Month. And all I have to say about that is that nothing about Pride Month seems like a mature thing. It just seems like constant complaining, and people have already made the criticism about like the actual, is it natural or unnatural to be in a same-sex relationship, and we've already talked about the virtues, and we've already talked about the metaphysical aspect of, you know, is this correct or not. We've already talked about the mystical aspect about like, is this even a union? Can you even call a marriage between a man and a man a union? Because what's being mystically united is just two men, and it's not, you know, the opposites, right? all those topics have been talked about so many times, and I think the philosophical sort of understanding of all these things gives these the LGBTQ people more legitimacy, because we're arguing with them in a serious way, and we're trying to like destruct their worldview, and they don't have a worldview. The worldview is entirely based off porn. There is no worldview to contend with. There is, when you're talking with a pride person, someone who celebrates the liturgical gay month of Pride, you're not talking to like a person who has like a formulated worldview. You're talking to a brainwashed person. You're talking to a mind-controlled person. So like this whole like, oh, we have to own the libs and we have to own the gays. They don't have a mind whereby they can even understand a worldview criticism. They don't have a worldview where you could just walk up to them and be like, hey, change your mind. Stop putting your pee-pee in a butthole. There's no amount of argument that's gonna get them to do that. Right? They need spiritual healing. They don't need a debate. They don't need an argument with someone. Hey, did you know that what you're doing is unnatural and wrong? Yeah, even they know that it's wrong and unnatural. That's why they have to take PrEP. They have to take PrEP and use condoms, and not use condoms, and there's going to be some foolish person who's going to be like, oh yeah, but straight people use condoms. Straight people use condoms so that they don't get pregnant. They use it as a contraceptive, right? Which is what it was designed for. But this whole like, I'm using a condom so I don't get your poop on me, that's not what it was designed for, right? Ask them questions about things they already know about, okay? You don't tell the lesbian couple that actually what you need is a man. No, you tell the lesbian couple that, hey, you two don't actually love each other. You never have loved each other. And just like every other lesbian relationship, you're going to get into an abusive situation. You're going to verbally abuse each other, physically abuse each other, beat on each other, cheat on each other. That's what... Tell them about the stereotypes. And a stereotype is just a condensement of reality. A stereotype is not something that's not real, it's just a sometimes maybe uncharitable version of what is actually real. So tell the lesbians the stereotype about, you know, no relationship between a lesbian woman and a lesbian woman ever succeeds. Tell them that. Lovingly. But just be like, hey, look, I get that you're searching for this thing called love, but you're never gonna achieve it with this person. It's like girls already understand how stupid other girls are, right? So before all the women in the comments are like, oh no, that's not true about all lesbian relationships. It's not even, it's female friendships are subject to change on a whim based off an emotion. How much more would a relationship between two women just be based off emotion? Tell them the things they already know. Every woman already knows how emotional she is and how emotional other women are. And that's already a good enough basis to not be a lesbian. Tell them about that. Don't make the weird argument about like, and it's weird just because it doesn't work. Right? Don't use the weird argument about like, you know, actually you're gonna go to hell and, you know, God hates you for doing this thing. And it's like, no, what God hates is that you're just like, you're confusing love for your weird sexuality. Right? God doesn't hate these people. God wants to heal these people. There's nothing wrong with being sexual, but again, when you've grown up on porn, you don't know what sex is. You don't know what it is. You don't know what love is. So, like, no, you can't tell the local femboy that he's going to hell for being a femboy, or because he's a femboy. Okay, what you should recognize in the femboy is that, no, we gotta keep that, is that he's just a very sexually confused and lost person. He's watched porn for such a long amount of time. He's had so many failures probably with women. Maybe he just never even connected with women. Maybe having a girlfriend just never made any sense to him, right? That happens for a lot of men. A lot of boys. Especially when you grow up on porn. That's okay, we don't even have. But what he needs is to stop watching the porn and stop listening to the demon in his ear telling him that he's a woman, right? The only reason he feels like he's a woman is because he feels like he would be more sexually fulfilled taking on that role. There might be some sort of psychosexual trauma. You don't get or convert people with psychosexual trauma by just telling them the baseness of, you know, their spiritual life. It just doesn't work on people. Hey, femboy, don't you know that I hate you? I hate you, you're going to hell! Ah! Yeah, that doesn't work on anybody. Or even like the whole like, hey femboy, you're going to hell. Or hey femboy, don't you know that what you're doing is unnatural? Okay. None of that works. They know it's unnatural. They don't care. Over here trying to save people with facts and logic, it doesn't work. People don't need facts and logic. They need to be healed. So I guess I would just argue that, you know, as a culture, we've tried doing it their way. We've tried doing the pride parades. We've tried creating the secular liturgical month of June, right, of Pride Month. We've tried doing that and it's not worked, right? Society has not become more sexually actualized by doing that, okay? So that's not worked. That's not what I want to do. Also, hating on them hasn't worked, okay? Because they haven't been like, oh yeah, facts and logic. I'm not gonna do that. Oh yeah, facts and logic. Let me change my whole personality and sexual life. That's not worked either. Ben Shapiro hasn't worked. Charlie Kirk hasn't worked. None of the conservative or neoconservative program for integrating them into our life has worked, right? Because the spiritual concern hasn't been evaluated at all, right? These people don't need to change their politics, they need to change their spirit. They have to have a new and right spirit within them. They need to be purged with hyssop. They don't need a new political formulation, right? And that's what a lot of conservatives do now, is they just invite the homosexuals, transgender people, they just invite them into the conservative program, because now the basis is just, oh, you need to just have the right politics, right? That's not gonna work. Okay, no one has ever considered, right, and this is a good thing to have them consider for a moment, right? Why is it that your weird little niche thing, and don't call them weird for it, right? Because their weirdness is just inspired by a demon. It's not them actually being weird. But why is it that your niche little sexual identity is formulated and created in the last 100 years after the invention of porn? Ask them that. Ask them, like, honestly, to evaluate how much porn has factored into their decision that they're another gender. And it's almost always men. I get that some girls are doing this, some girls are saying that they're men or whatever, right? But just accepting them as they are is not good enough. Just telling them, hey, you can come to our church and we're not going to expect anything of you, that's not good enough. They need to be healed, right? Right? So if you're going to one of these churches where the healing of the soul and the body of the whole man is not the central focus, because that was the central focus of Jesus' ministry. Saving and healing the lost. Okay? That was a little sloppy. Oh, okay, so it just opens up. It wasn't... It wasn't this whole, just come as you are. Yeah, come as you are, but what happens after that? Ah! Oh. But what happens after that? Oh, what the f... Okay, well then don't do the stupid cutscene so I can heal. No! Why have the cutscene? Ah! Can I turn that off? That is such a stupid feature. Yo, that is so stupid. That is the dumbest feature. Right? So I have to stay stuck in the cutscene, but any sort of damage. So the cutscene happens, but real life continues. Oh, watch. Oh, you see how cool you killed this enemy? Yeah, well, you're about to die. Ha! Like, yo. Oh man. That's why I hate playing video games. But like people need to be healed, right? You can't just be like bashing everyone over the head so that they can't get healed of their obvious problem. It's not beneficial for anyone's soul to just sit there and be like, oh yeah, you're going to hell. You put the PP in the butthole, and it's like, yeah, that might actually be the spiritual reality. That might be the spiritual case. But if you're trying to save someone, you don't tell them that. Not because it's not true. Just because that truth doesn't have any point in being said in the moment. It's just an unbeneficial truth. Right? Because they've been told a dozen times that they're going to hell. Alright? They already know what the Baptist Church thinks of them. They already know what all these traditional churches think of them. Right? So they know what we think of them. Or they at least know what these schismatic, cultic Christians think of them. But they don't know anything about the healing of the whole body. They don't know that they don't need electrical shock therapy. They just need the Holy Spirit. They don't know that. No one's ever told them that. No one's ever told them that, hey, you don't need to go to the mega church just because they're accepting of who you are, right? That's actually a very bad thing, to just be accepted as your sinful self, right? So no one's telling anybody that that's the wrong place to go. But then no one's also telling any of these people that, like, actually your main issue is just that you've been watching porn for so long and you just got porn brain rot. No one's been telling them that, hey, your desire to be a girl is just because you've been watching all these videos from the perspective of a girl, right? And the demons use that to manipulate your sexuality, okay? No one's telling them that their problem isn't political, because it isn't. Their problem isn't political. Oh wait, we have a bow. Forgot about that. Or like, even people are like, oh, your problem is that you don't read the Bible. It's all these cultic, schismatic people who are either pushing away everyone spiritually by saying like the dumbest things on like a Sunday sermon, right? Or they're inviting people in for no valid reason. So both extremes are bad. Pushing people away is bad, but also having open arms just for no reason is bad. So like a church that has like a pride parade, that's bad. But a church that has like, you know, a Sunday sermon where the priest is just like, you have to hate on the gays to be saved. Or they have to fundamentally reorder or change themselves in order to be saved. Right? God loved us that he saved us while we were yet still sinners. Okay? So there's gonna be a gay man, because we've all fallen short of the glory of God. There's gonna be a gay man who's struggling with his homosexuality. Okay? That's not actually a sin. Having homosexual desire, right? And you know it's strictly because you watch porn for so long, or you got brainwashed when you were young by the gay straight alliance in high school, right? That person is going to be saved, because he's actually wrestling with, hey, my inherited notion of sexuality it's completely based off the teachings of succubus spirits on the internet. Okay? That's what we need to give these people more grace. We need to adopt the same spiritual worldview in language that people back in the day had. Right? You go up to a Catholic priest in the medieval times and just, hey, I think I'm being attacked by a succubus. Right? And that just seems like a normal thing to him. Oh. It just seems like a normal thing to him. Right? But now if we don't use that language anymore. We use the language of like, I watch porn. No. You didn't watch porn. You communed with a succubus. Okay. You communed with a succubus spirit. That's all that happened. I watch porn, and now I think I'm a girl. That's not what happened. Okay? What really happened was you had sex with a succubus spirit. Okay? Whether you realize it or not. And the consequences of that are, hey, guess what? Now you think you're a girl, or now you want to embody the feminine within you. People just don't wake up and want to do that. Okay? No one just wakes up and says, you know, I'm going to base my whole life around my sexuality. No one does that. Okay? And the reason that they do it is, again, just because they're spiritually lost. They need spiritual guidance. That's the only reason they're having these issues. should be telling them, hey, come to Matins, come to Vespers. Come to our church and live out the life of the church, the life of Christ. Don't tell them, hey, here's a sermon my pastor preached for an hour about why what you're doing is vile. They know what they're doing is vile, okay? That's why a lot of them, when you meet them, they tell you they're on some type of drug, or they use some type of drug while they're having sex. I knew a straight girl who, pretty sure she was gonna ruin my life. Oh man, oh man, the darkness is just, it's too much. But she was a nice girl, but again, right? And she's either bi or straight. And I'm sorry I'm putting your information out on blast if you're listening to this. But like, she can't have sex without drugs. Okay? That's not something you just pick up when you wake up one morning. That's not something that just happens to you. Okay, you don't wake up and decide I want to take drugs, or like I can't have sex without drugs. That's not something you just come upon. That's a spiritual condition. That's something that needs to be healed. Okay? So for the once saved, always saved type people, they don't understand the reality of healing, right? They don't understand the reality that a lesbian girl might need to be healed over like the course of a decade, right? And maybe that means she doesn't get married. Okay, it might mean that the femboy, yeah, he might cut his hair shorter just so he can appear more masculine, but the actual lifestyle might be a difficult thing for him to let go. Okay, but as long as he's struggling with it, right? Who the hell am I to be like, oh yeah, he's not making it into the kingdom. Right? Who the hell am I to be like God isn't working in him, right? Oh, but he still talks in the high-pitched girl voice. Yeah, maybe he's still just like at that point of being confused, right? Okay, what do we need to... What is going to be necessary for... Okay, but we have to give more grace to people. We have to... I'm not saying let's just accept every single presupposition of the Pride Parade liturgical month. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's be more open, okay, and not just hate on these people when there's so many more tragic sins happening, right? I never hear any sort of, you know, fire and brimstone type of sermon against like the things that Trump does. I heard a lot of those about Biden. You don't hear a lot of that about Trump. You don't hear like an actual spiritual worldview being espoused by any of these churches. Why are my hands not popping up? Why are my hands not popping up? Is something wrong with my controller or the game? Because sometimes I'll press a button and the character will just not do anything. I think I pressed the X button to have my hands pop up like 5 times. just, this game's a little annoying sometimes. Okay. But I promise you, so I'm talking mostly to the femboys. I promise you, if you stop watching porn, eventually you won't want to be a girl anymore. Right? You're comparing your bodily image and your self-worth to what the girls on the porn video you saw, or on Twitter, or on Instagram. You're comparing your body to theirs, and you're envious and you're jealous. That's not healthy. That's not a healthy sexuality. Okay? Do I really need to explain that it's not healthy to boil plastic in order to siphon off estrogen? Do I really need to explain that? I feel like I shouldn't have to. But like, you can't be that down bad. Just gonna wear this. Oh. Huh? Oh, okay. I'll have to come back to this, I guess, in my other save. What? What? Okay then, okay. Okay. But yeah, this whole notion that like what we should be doing in the culture is like hating on people, right? Or pushing people away because they're obviously sinning. Yeah, they know that. We've been or I'm not saying we as like in the Orthodox or the Catholic Church have been telling them this, but like the culture has been telling them this, and they feel like year over year they have to become more emboldened, right? They have to do a bigger pride parade, or they have to do a bigger spectacle than they did the last time to own the conservatives. That's not what we should be doing with these people. Okay? So like everyone on Twitter is like, oh, so like the new little stupid thing that people are doing are, instead of posting pride parade pictures Christians are posting pictures of them being married. Or like, instead of Pride Parade, here's my picture of me when I married my wife. Right? Ha, I owned you. We own the libs. We own the libs. I posted a picture of my marriage. Thus and therefore they're wrong. Right, so I mean, again, that only serves to further divide the culture. It's ultimately not what we need. It's ultimately unnecessary. It doesn't lead to any sort of societal good, just to keep hating on them. We keep trying this same tactic and it doesn't work. Right? And if you're thinking like, no, we have to keep the same tactic, we have to keep doing the same thing, you're only saying that because you don't desire that they're saved. Your desire is just that we keep owning them, or we keep destroying them with facts and logics, right? So you also have a very unspiritual understanding of all these things. These people are they're unsaved, they're lost, right? No one's ever told them about actual Christianity. They're stuck in either fake Christianity that doesn't offer or ask anything of them, or they're stuck in hating Christianity when they don't know that, like, hey, actually my worldview or my understanding about my sex has been manipulated by porn, by Pornhub. They don't understand that. Okay, so just hating on them is not going to be the thing that gets them to stop watching porn. Okay, because that's the actual issue in play here. It's not their politics. It's not their, you know, what church they go to necessarily in the beginning. It's not any of those things. It's just the fact that they're not being offered the healing in the Holy Spirit. They're being offered just political or cultural substitutes. So the femboy who goes to your church, right? He might not cut his hair, right? For 2 years maybe. For 2 years maybe he won't cut his hair. But he is struggling with his sexuality. Eventually, if you give him the time and the space to authentically reach Christ on his own, he will cut his hair. He will return to the person God meant him to be. But if you're just gonna hate on him, no, he's not gonna return to anything. Right? He'll go stay a femboy. You have to recognize that for a lot of these people, becoming a femboy or becoming a lesbian fulfills them in some way. Okay? Life is actually legitimately more difficult for them if they live it as a man. Right? Everyone hates them as a man. No girl wants to go out with them as a man, but as a woman or as a femboy, he can achieve those things. So for a lot of, like, you don't realize that, like, okay, this is getting autistic. This is getting very autistic right now. people don't change overnight. You have to give people grace, but at the same time, you can't just like this whole like we have to accept Pride Month or whatever. Like, no, we don't have to do that. We don't have to accept transgenderism as like an ontological category, because it's not ontologically real, right? And a lot of what these transgender people do, again, because they don't have sound mental faculties. We're talking about people who boil plastic to get estrogen hormone. Okay, we're talking about spiritually lost people. There isn't like a legitimate argument that's going to change their mind, but we're talking about people who conflate, you know, like the similarities in the male body and the female body. So they'll say, and they'll rightly say that, like, if you gave a man estrogen, right, he would stop growing facial hair, he would grow breasts, his butt would get bigger. That's the truth, right? That's the truth, that there's a biological overlap between estrogen and testosterone, right? We all have these things in our body already, but they're gonna use that as like the argument, thus then therefore, right? Transgenderism. Because a man can grow boobs, thus then therefore I can become something that I'm not, even though that, you know, they don't necessarily understand that there's multiple different things that qualify a woman as a woman, and having boobs and a butt is, you know, the least of those qualities, right? So we don't need to hate on transgender people, but we also shouldn't
could you spare a coin?
just accept at face value their philosophical argument, right? It's ontologically impossible to become something that you're not, okay? You can't, there's no amount of estrogen that will make you into an actual woman. Physically, yes, you can look like an actual woman in multiple different ways. Physically, through surgery,
come to dragons.
you can change your bodily image.
Spells and incantations for those with the talent to cast them.
But that doesn't make you a woman, right? Right?
You know, if you've
just
got the
passing,
you should
being
join the
able to
mages
pass
college
as a
and
woman does not make you a woman. And I know that there's like a whole sort of like catharsis and like emotional sort of like release and depressurization that happens when, you know, people tell you that you pass, or maybe people don't recognize immediately or at all that you are in fact a man. I get that that might be like an emotional rush, right? I get that life is painful as a man. I understand that. But we don't get from that to, you know, we have to start taking chemicals in our body to address this pain in my heart. There's no chemical on the earth that's gonna change the pain inside of your heart. Right? It doesn't exist. Okay? There's, if, and like, even for like gay people, right? And they feel like they're having to become gay either as like a rejection of something, which is why a lot of people join religions, right? It's just simply out of rejection of something, but not necessarily trying to find something, right? A lot of gay people are just rejecting sort of the hyper-traditionalist culture that they grew up in. Or maybe a culture that really didn't value sex like it should be valued. Maybe they grew up in like a puritanical culture. They started watching porn and just in rejection to what their parents taught them. Thus, then, therefore, you look like someone that needs to be killed. You don't look like you need to be alive. You immediately scream, bad guy. Like, honestly, dude. Yeah, you scream someone who needs to be eliminated, if I'm being honest. Just the black robes, but then with the face. I understand I kind of profiled him, but he needed to go. Let's see. Yeah, and then another thing is like, people have to learn to not judge the gays. Okay. Again, most of these people, I would argue, are just the result of porn being invented, right? I don't feel like people just woke up one day in modernity and decided, hey, I actually want to put my pee in a butthole. I don't think people just wake up and think like that. That's something you have to get taught. And I know, again, just to make it more psychologically comfortable for themselves, I know that they'll tell themselves that I was born this way. I am who I am. God made me this way. Right? And all I'd say is that God is not the author of confusion. He's the author of light,
You're that I'm the innkeeper. Attic room, eh?
So God isn't going to inspire you or put you in a body that you're not meant to be in.
At home.
He's not gonna breathe in the Holy Spirit into your body and then be like, hey, I kind of messed up here. I kind of messed up here, so make sure when you're 20 years old after you've watched porn for a decade, make sure you take some estrogen. God didn't say that.
So you're the Dragonborn I've been hearing so much about.
I
think you're looking for this. We need to talk. Follow me.
I was born this way. Yeah, in the sense of like, from the day that you were born, you've been watching porn, and your brain chemistry has changed to such a degree that, yeah, I guess essentially you are a different person. You are a new person. You were born that way, right? But through baptism, you can be born into something else, right?
The Greybeards seem to think you're the Dragonborn.
Well,
I hope they're right.
It's not really something in question at this point. So they are right.
I hope so, but you'll forgive me if I don't assume that something's true just because the Greybeards say so. I just handed you the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. Does that make me Dragonborn too?
That is highly, highly fallacious logic right there. You broke into the place that I was supposed to get this thing from. Okay. That test was meant to just try my ability to perform whirlwind sprint, okay? So you missed the point. Right? Highly fallacious logic. I am the Dragonborn by virtue of the fact that I can speak the language of dragons. The test was never to get the horn. The test was just to try my other abilities. You stupid woman.
It was the only way I could make sure it wasn't a Thalmor trap. I am not
we got this
your
freaking
enemy.
conspiracy.
I already gave you the horn. I'm actually trying to help you. I just need you to hear me out.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like I said in my
prattle.
note, I've heard that you might be Dragonborn. I'm part of a... If you really are Dragonborn, that is. Before I tell you any more,
Why do you keep?
I
Why do
need to
you
make
keep?
sure that I can
So if I
trust
just shouted in your face right now,
I shouldn't let you walk out of here. Knowing the Greybeards seem to think you're the Dragonborn. I hope they're right. The Greybeards seem to think you're the Dragonborn. I hope they're right.
so the developers were too dumb because, like, I just proved it right there. Beyond facts and logics, I just proved it with 2 or 3 witnesses. I just shouted 2 words at you. Let every matter be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. Foos row, I just did it at you.
I hope you're just playing dumb. I'm the one who left the... I didn't go... You ready to hear me out? Like I said, I'm part of... If you really are Dragonborn, that is. Before I tell you any more, I need... We remember you're the only... Can you do it? Can you devour a dragon's soul?
Yes.
Good. And you'll have a chance to prove it to me soon enough.
I don't need to prove anything to you. You incredibly autistic person. There's never been anything to prove so far.
Dragons aren't just... They weren't gone. Now something's happening to bring them back to life. And I figured out we're going to go there, and you're going to kill that dragon. If we... Kynes Grove. There's an ancient dragon bear. I need to get into my traveling gear. Give me a minute, and I'll be ready.
I'm not going with you. You're a foolish person.
That's better. Let's get on the road to Kynes Grove.
You're foolish. Stupid.
This is a local favorite and one of the first songs I ever learned.
Oh, I was
Ragnar
like,
the
why
Red.
did he come down here?
Oh, there once was a hero named Ragnar the Red who came riding to Whiterun from old Rorikstead. And the braggart did swagger and brandish his blade as he told of bold battles in
Like,
Gold
imagine if,
Yet
like, your whole life,
But then he went
not
quiet,
only have you been
Ragnar
watching
Red,
porn,
when he met the shield maiden
right?
Matilda, who said,
you're not going to church, or the church that you're going to doesn't have, like, an actual spiritual program, so you're
Kynes
not
Grove
going
is
to
this
church.
way.
I've been looking for you.
Travel together or
Got
split
something
up.
I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only. Let's see here. A letter. Not sure who from. He wouldn't say, just that he was a friend of yours. Looks like that's it. Got to go.
Right? But imagine you've been watching furry porn, right? Isn't that where we're traveling? No. Where's this other... Where's Volkstead at? But imagine you've been watching furry porn, right? Of course you're going to adopt the desire. Where is this thing at? Of course you're gonna oh, okay, I see. Of course you're gonna adopt the desire to all the way up here. Okay. That's not happening anytime soon, so. I'm not walking with you. I'm sorry. You're like some schizo. I have zero desire to walk with her. I shouted in your face. But you've been, you know, on Tumblr, right? And everyone on Tumblr is telling you about the hip new craze, right? About, you know, having sex with someone in a fursuit, right? And if you're a lesbian, if you're transgender, if you're gay, and you're hearing me talk about like furries having sex with each other in the persona of an animal, and you're like cringing at that, no, like you're missing the point, right? You should be cringing at yourself. How is it that you should be asking yourself, how is it that I think that love is just love and you can have any type of love that you want, but I can't actually have an actual relationship with anybody? Like, you should look at your relationships with people and be like, actually, I don't understand what love is, because I've had multiple partners, I've had multiple sexual hang-ups. I haven't understood what love is at all. I don't know how many times people who just like, they for real can't pair bond or have like an actual relationship with someone, but they want to tell you what love is, right? I hate to keep putting all these people on blast, but I'm not necessarily saying their name, but like my friend at the time when this was happening was telling me, like, you know, she was dating a guy who was like abusing her and like beating her, having sex with her while she was sleeping. And her basis, or her understanding of love, was simply that he ejaculated prematurely, right? When she touched him. Right? Her understanding of love was that he's sexual towards me, or he has a sexual feeling towards me. Thus, then, therefore, he loves me. That's bad logic. Right? So you're not going to save these people with facts and logic. And I was sitting here trying to argue with her and be like, why do you believe this? Why do you believe this to be the case? Right? He beats on you, he hits you, right? When he took mushrooms with you, he started beating on you. Right? Because he hates you. Right? So why is that your basis of love? Just the sexual. That can't be what love is. Love is when I put the pee-pee in the butthole, pee-pee in the vagina. That's not what love is. Right? Love is being able to handle someone at their worst. Or better yet, love is being able to treat someone without hitting them. Treat someone politely. So what people should be telling the gays or the lesbians is that if you wanted to be like based or whatever with them, you should just tell them that they don't even understand what love is. Right? They understand, you know, materially how to have fleshly type of sex. right? But they don't understand what love is. If you're gonna tell them anything, tell them that they're conflating sex and love. If you're gonna tell them anything, I wouldn't tell them anything. Because their issue isn't, oh, I'm coming out of the wrong place. Again, their issue, at least in my mind, isn't like that no one's answering their questions or whatever. It's just that they don't understand how to love themselves. What love as a category of being is. They don't understand where love derives from. How do you practice it, right? They understand you can put the pee-pee in the butthole. And they want to defend that because that's their understanding of love, right? And when someone's understanding of love is that confused, okay, just having a debate with them, having an argument with them isn't going to help them. Sometimes you get lost in such a spiritual darkness that words don't work anymore. Only prayer and fasting works. Okay? So, I mean, and I'm not saying like, yeah, we have to bring all these people into the church so that the femboy can start dating a girl and he can start doing things right. No. Right? I'm not trying to, or the church isn't trying to just get people from one type of terrible sexual encounter into another. Or, oh, instead of having gay sex, right? Now you can have straight sex. No.
Hope I don't rob God. Go tell him again.
That's not what we're trying to do. I'm sorry. I have to fast travel. I'm not gonna keep killing myself. So again, just to reiterate, we don't have to politically support these people, right? We don't have to philosophically support them. Okay, we don't have to lend credence to any of their arguments.
I am waiting for a good death.
What type of good death?
If you are not here to grant me a good death, then you can leave.
Wait,
yes.
wait,
Were I to simply lay down and die,
wait, I'm
it
sorry.
would not please Malakath.
Where in God's name have you been?
If you are not here to grant me a good death, then you can leave.
Have you been stuck here the entire time?
If you are not here to grant me a good death, then you can
I'm
leave.
right behind you.
Until
Ooh, I
next
want to
time.
kill you. I want to kill you so bad. Especially after the last episode
If you
when
are
we
not
fought
here
the
to grant me a
cultist
good
and
death,
you weren't
then you
even
can
there.
leave.
Okay. We have to kill you.
Are you sure about this? We shall see.
And there she is. She's backing up. Cool. Who's puny now? even consider this guy, right? He's an old orc. He wants to die a good death, right? Because he can't get a wife, or he can't procreate with the women in the tribe or whatever. I don't know how orcs live, right? But he couldn't take a woman, right? It might be that a lot of these femboys, they're gonna die as old orcs, right? In the church. But at least they're going to the right place, though. Is his body gonna come out the other side? Yeah. At least he's going to the right place. Alright, we're gonna end the stream right here today. We've gone on long enough. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.